Buongiorno, everybody. It's Boy Party. Myself and Shane are joined by Katie Brady this week to discuss William Wyler's classic Roman Holiday, starring Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Boy Party, the podcast about movies where two major stars share the screen. This week, we're discussing Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn in William Wyler's classic Roman Holiday. I'm Lucian, and I'm joined by the handsome journalist who has decided to escort me through the ancient city of Rome, Shane Kelly.
Ciao. And
the ridiculous Italian who is following us everywhere, Katie Brady. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, guys.
You're our resident Italy goer as you are jetting off next week. You're not going to Rome, though, this time, are you?
No, have been, but this is Napoli holiday.
Napoli holiday.
Yeah.
Well, Napoli holiday would be boring and no one made it, so
yes.
Joke's on you.
Napoli holidays when we go to Galway.
Yeah, exactly. Napoli, our favorite pizza establishment, sponsor of Boy Party this week. Napoli, the place to go for slices and spices. You been to Rome, Shane?
I have not.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Rome, Katie?
Underwhelming, except
I
for
agree.
the locations where this film was shot, which I have visited.
Right. I've never sought them out. I assume
Yeah.
I've been to this crucial central ones
Yeah.
by default.
Spanish Steps.
The usual. But I find Rome to be very underwhelming. I mean, it's obviously a great city. And we have a lot of nerve as Irish people to call any Italian city underwhelming. Come on, we live in Dublin. But I think I've been to I've been to 5 or 6 Italian cities, and I think Rome is bottom of the list in terms of where I'd want to go back to. Which is
it just kind of very commercial? Lots of cars, kind of.
It's packed.
There's
It's
so many
jam-packed.
cars. There's so many people, and it doesn't. There's nowhere in it where you feel totally lost and away with magic. You know?
No, but there is one location, and I might reference it later.
Do?
That is the only place of refuge in the city that is jammers all the time.
Yeah. Well, I went to Rome once, and it was during the Rome Film Festival 2011, and I got to see 2 major stars walk the red carpet. Yes, it was Nikki Reed and Jackson Rathbone from the Twilight franchise.
Whoa.
Rosalie and Jasper. They were both there. And they did not wave at me, but they seemed like they were, happy to be there. Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn, 2 movie stars who can never compete with Jackson and Nikki's presence, star in Roman Holiday. Would I say that the film Roman Holiday is similar to the city of Rome and that it is underwhelming and there are many better similar ones? Perhaps I would, but Katie's here to argue otherwise. Shane and I watched this at 9:30 p.m. on a night where we were both exhausted.
Yeah.
It was a struggle to stay awake. And I think
that's an exaggeration.
It's a sleepy film, which is not a bad thing. But in the case of this, it is it's almost too sleepy to stay engaged.
I mean, the first half hour is about Audrey Hepburn being asleep.
She is asleep. She is she's worrying.
She has taken sleeping pills.
And I had forgotten how much of the film she spends just really drowsy.
Yeah. It's
when I rewatched,
it's kind of alarming, actually. But there's no score for most of this film. There's basically long extended scenes for the first half, mostly indoors, of people chatting with no music playing over them. And that feels really unusual, and it feels really jarring to me, where I'm this is really struggling to keep my attention when there's no music. And it could have a really fun 50s, comedy score, and it doesn't. And I don't know why that is. Maybe they're trying to build up atmosphere of rooms in Rome or whatever, but I don't know. I think it works obviously because of these 2 amazing stars and their incredible charisma, especially her. But I think it's not quite up there with my favorite films that either of these 2 have been in, or of this kind of 50s romantic comedy genre. But your thoughts? Big fan?
I'm a big fan. What was my rating? 4?
Okay.
4 stars.
Sure.
I find it very charming.
Yeah.
And I think they're very well matched.
Yeah.
It's not oozing with sexual chemistry.
No, it's not.
But I don't.
Dad,
but I don't think it has to, and I think that's actually quite suitable because she's pent up in the palace or whichever palace she's in because she's on her tour.
Yeah.
And it's her first foray out into a cosmopolitan city, so I feel for her to meet someone like Gregory Peck with his, I don't know,
teacherly energy.
Yes, but not in a creepy way, just in a very sincere sort of caregiver, handsome way.
Well, there's that, but he's also like trying to exploit her at the same time. Like he's also kind of more obsessed with getting his job and getting his interview than he is with really taking care of her. For the beginning,
it
anyway.
has the typical romantic comedy mismatched pair thing where one of them needs something from the other person.
There's a lie being told. There's a bit of exploitation.
But like it is, as always, it is kind of harmless exploitation, but it will ultimately cause a trust issue.
Yeah, I will say, upon rewatching it, forgot how unsettling it is to watch her. As we said, she's asleep for half the time.
Yeah.
But to be brought up to the apartment, to be put in the pajamas, put in the bed, I think the physicality is great. But I was sitting there being like, "Oh goodness, the
situations are creepy." It is a testament to Gregory Peck's vibes that it doesn't feel creepier. Like it is, and he's not. It's not like not. So like as I read that Cary Grant was when they made Charade. So Cary Grant was going to be in this, and he said, or he was offered it, and he said no. The male character, the character will take a backseat to the Audrey Hepburn character. Like the princess is obviously going to be the star. I don't want to be a secondary character. Then he ends up working with her again in Charade, and he's hesitant about it because he's like, oh, I'm a lot older than her, and this is going to be weird. And then he ends up thinking it's fine or whatever. But I feel like he is harmless because he's got this kind of, gay thing going on that we've talked about before with all the women in the films. Gregory Peck's he's a very heterosexual presence, but he doesn't feel creepy towards much younger woman that he's starring opposite. I don't know how he's pulling it off. I feel like nobody could pull that off anymore. It's incredible.
I think some of it is just like behaving normally.
Yeah.
Which
reacting normally to things.
Yeah. That goes a long way.
He doesn't seem obsessive or lustful at any point.
No, there's a way that he guides her around the city. Like you'll notice, like the way he takes her hand or her wrist or something. Yeah. It's all done very well. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's just so not intimidating. Yeah. It's very sincere. There's a great kindness behind the way he's showing her the city.
Yes.
Yeah. True. I think it works.
This is her first starring role. She popped up in some Belgian stuff and some small English stuff, but this is her big break.
Yeah. So she was in the stage production of Gigi.
Oh, was she?
Yes. And I think from there then she goes on to do Roman Holiday because she would have trained as a ballerina and was very, very talented. But I think because of her height, she couldn't pursue that.
So what is she? She's too tall to be a ballerina?
She's 5'11", I think, or something. Or I beg your pardon, she was 5'11".
She looks so small.
Yes. Now, this could be false news, but I was under the impression that she was there was something about her height or her physique or her age, something that she couldn't control.
Gregory Peck is 6'3", so I guess this film is all just scaled up. Yeah.
Audrey Hepburn in my head is 5'3", small, dainty. Yes.
Rooney Mara sized person.
That is a shocking revelation.
She's too tall to be a ballerina. So Leslie Caron, who was in Gigi, the film, well, if only I had met her briefly once and could tell you how tall she is. She's 5'1". She's a real tiny person. And I was about 5'1" when I met her too, because I was 8. But anyway,
size buddies.
Yeah, Audrey Hepburn. The crazy kind of sad thing about Audrey Hepburn is that if she was alive today, she'd only be 95 years old. She could very conceivably still be alive. She died first.
She could have been cast in Netflix Tall Girl series if she was still alive.
Exactly.
So I've checked. She's not quite the height that I have made her out to be, but she is still
5'6", 5'7"?
5'7".
Sure.
So she is still, I believe, too tall.
Above average.
Yeah. I mean,
5'11" in heels.
Yeah. She's a 5'7" to Gregory Peck's 6'3", which is way taller than I would have thought. But see, Gregory Peck reminds me, and I think you and certainly Lauren, a lot of my English teacher, Mr. Kelly. And I don't think it's just because we read To Kill a Mockingbird in class and he was always reading the Atticus Finch bits. He is a giant man with giant hands. And I always picture Gregory Peck as also being a giant man with giant hands.
Yes.
I'd say his hands could just absolutely give you the best back massage of your entire life.
Well, I
dream about it frequently. Yes.
I was at the Chinese theatre and I saw...
In of Grauman variety.
Yes.
In LA.
And I saw his handprints. And I have a picture of them on my Instagram.
No way!
Here's what I prepared earlier.
Folks, look up Katie's Instagram if you want the handprint.
Was this the kind of thing where you could put your hand in the handprint and measure it?
And it goes, yeah. he goes, Tom Robinson did not do this. I saw Matthew Modine in To Kill a Mockingbird on the West End last year. Good performance. No Gregory Peck, though.
Was there Did Matthew Modine's film timeline ever cross over with Gregory Peck's?
Did they ever work together, or
Could they have worked together?
Yeah, absolutely. Gregory Peck died in 2003.
Okay, yeah.
There's 25 years where they could have worked together. They might have worked together. I don't know. Gregory Peck died like 10 years after Audrey Hepburn, which is very sad because he died at a normal, healthy 80s age and she died very young. Not like as young as maybe a Hollywood starlet from the 50s you would imagine having died when you say that they died young. Like, she died in her 60s of cancer in the 90s. But considering a lot of her contemporaries kind of would have died in their late 20s, like. But she won Best Actress for this. Her first starring role at the Oscars. She goes on to be one of the very rare actresses who is an EGOT.
Really?
She does the Oscar, the Emmy, the Grammy, the Tony. She was supposed to get much. So this is a fun bit of boy party chat. Gregory Peck's contract said that he was going to get solo star billing in the credits. Gregory Peck in Roman Holiday, and it was going to say much smaller underneath, and introducing Audrey Hepburn. And once they started filming, Gregory Peck went to William Wyler and said that they should elevate her to have her name the same size.
Sorry, I thought you said Cary Grant turned down this role.
Have I been saying Cary Grant the last 30 seconds? I've been talking about Gregory Peck. What are you saying?
No, did you not say earlier on the podcast that Cary Grant turned down the role in Roman Holiday?
Yes.
Because she was going to be given first billing?
No, it wasn't about the billing. That was about the actual attention in the film.
Okay.
Cary Grant was thinking conceptually, not about the paperwork.
Right, because I thought...
Gregory Peck's talking about the paperwork here.
Okay.
And he said he would look like an idiot if she won an Oscar for the film that had his name above the title.
Yes.
He said, put her there as well. She's a superstar.
Yeah.
But Gregory Peck has a reputation of being a pretty good advocate for young female stars, because I love this story that he was the president of AMPAS at one point, an organization I've never done any dealings with. And he was like, this Barbra Streisand girl, she's fantastic. We should admit her to the Academy. And they were like, but Mr. Peck, she's only been in one movie. And he was like, I don't care. The picture's phenomenal. I'm doing a Cary Grant impression of Gregory Peck. I don't know why. Let her in. I mean, they kind of sound the same. Let her in. And he gets Streisand let into the Academy totally prematurely. And then Barbra Streisand and Katharine Hepburn tie for the Best Actress Oscar that year, which means they got the same number of votes, which means if Barbra Streisand had got one less vote, she wouldn't have won, which means that the Barbra Streisand's vote for herself was the deciding vote that created that tie. So Gregory Peck inadvertently allowed her to vote for herself, which allowed Katharine Hepburn to have to share the Oscar with Barbra Streisand. That's a great thing that would never happen now. Barbra Streisand and Katharine Hepburn sharing an Oscar.
What was the voting base like? What was it? Not many people?
It was probably a few hundred people, just guessing.
Still, even the chance of that evening out is pretty rare.
The last tie at the Oscars was in 2012. There was a sound tie. I think Zero Dark 30 Argo tied for sound.
Anyway, how was a tie announced on the night?
They said, we have a tie. First, Zero Dark 30. Woo! They go up and they make their speech.
So
Argo, you also won. No.
Oh, they should invite them both up at the same time.
Yeah, the Moonlight La La Land situation could have been treated like that in a different set of circumstances. As always, the issue there was you could not give the white movie the black movie's Oscar just because Warren Beatty fucked up. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I have pulled up the picture of Gregory Peck's hands if we want to do a quick case study.
Very good. They don't look that big.
No, that's my feet.
What size are you?
I'm a 5.
Size 5? They're not that big. We'll share this picture on our on our socials.
I mean, they look like they could comfortably wrap around your foot.
Yes.
You'd be like, let me go, and then you'd see it was Gregory.
He could swing you around,
and then I'd be like,
listen,
you hang on there.
We can hang out.
Yeah.
William Wyler had initially considered Elizabeth Taylor and Gene Simmons for the princess role, but both were unavailable. And then he cast Audrey, and he said some stuff that I would say is borderline complimentary, borderline misogynistic. He wanted an anti-Italian actress who was different from the curvy Italian stars. She was perfect, he said. She had no ass, no tits, no tight-fitting clothes, no high heels. In short, a Martian. She will be a sensation.
Fantastic.
Were there a lot of Italian actresses being cast at the time?
A few. Yes. You had your Sophia Lorenz. You had your La Dolce Vita lady.
Yeah, this is the time where the Italian starlet is kind of making waves.
Yeah.
Like,
is it a time when making a film in and about Italy would have been in vogue as well?
Yes, it's kind of the start of that whole Hollywood on the Tiber.
Yeah,
or well, maybe not even the start, but it's certainly in the heyday of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she certainly does have that different physicality.
Yeah. William Wyler is very, very prominent director. I'm trying to see a number of like the list of the number of films he made, because it's like a really freaky list. Like he made like 100 movies or something. Like it's terrifying. Most of them are silent. Let me see if there's a number here. He is he made like I'd say 50 silent films and then like 50 more sound films. There's like 100 movies on this list. Of the ones that I've seen, he actually directed Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl, which we just talked about, that whole anecdote. He directed How to Steal a Million with Audrey, which you went to see there a few weeks ago.
Yes, thought it was fantastic.
He directed The Children's Hour, which is her again, and Shirley MacLaine. Oh, that'd be a good boy party episode. And he directs Ben-Hur, which is a fantastic film, which I love. And Ben-Hur is such a great example of like a 4-hour biblical movie that never gets boring because there's always music playing. And Roman Holiday has a real issue there. He does The Big Country with Gregory Peck.
Yes, another great film.
And Gene Simmons. A couple of years after this. And Best Years of Our Lives, 1946, is a great film. That's a really moving, like, soldiers come back from the war and readjust to society, and they're kind of depressed and figuring stuff out. He does Mrs. Miniver with Greer Garson, like Wuthering Heights, 1939. Have I seen that one? Yeah, that's the Laurence Olivier one. Yeah, that's great. It's like loads of great films in here. And then there's also 50 silent films, most of which don't have Wikipedia pages, with names like Lazy Lightning, The Two-Fister, The Pinnacle Rider, Riding for Love, Tenderfoot Courage, The Home Trail, Gun Justice. They all sound fake. This film was Roman Holiday was written by John Dighton and the infamous Dalton Trumbo, who Bryan Cranston plays in the movie Trumbo, who was blacklisted because he was a communist. One of the boys. He liked to write in the bathtub, as you'll know if you've seen that film. There is many a scene where he says, "I'm writing in the bathtub." And he was not able to put his name on the film because he was blacklisted. So they said that Ian McClellan Hunter had co-written the film. And then it wins the Oscar for screenplay. And I'm not even sure who goes up on stage to accept it, Ian McClellan Hunter or the other guy. Anyway, Trumbo was at home watching in his bath. And in the 90s or the 80s, they eventually gave Trumbo's widow his as Oscar and was like, yeah, this was his deservedly. So they made amends for all of this stuff. But it was also nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Director. Audrey wins. Eddie Albert is nominated for Best Supporting Actor. No nomination for Gregory Peck. But he got a BAFTA nomination. And this was nominated. I'm trying to see what this was up against at the Oscars that year. So this would have been 1954. It was nominated against From Here to Eternity, great film, Julius Caesar, The Robe, and Shane. George Stevens' Shane. So
did Gregory Peck won an Oscar at this point?
That's a really good question. Gregory Peck, I feel like he's a 2 Oscar guy, is he? I don't know. He definitely, I have to assume, wins for Atticus Finch. I'd be amazed if he didn't. He won 2 Oscars. He won for To Kill a Mockingbird, and then he received the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award in 1967. So he actually only won 1 real Oscar. At this point, he'd been nominated 4 times for Keys to the Kingdom, The Yearling, Gentleman's Agreement, 12 O'Clock High. I've seen 12 O'Clock High. That's like a war pilot thing. And then he wins in 62 for To Kill a Mockingbird. But anyway, Gregory Peck, cool guy, learned a lot about his politics today. He was constantly getting into trouble for how kind of liberal he was.
Hey.
He was almost nominated by LBJ to be the ambassador to Ireland, but LBJ didn't get a second term, so they couldn't nominate him. And he was constantly being surveyed by the NSA for his liberal activities. He defended all of the blacklisted people. He was very anti-blacklisting and Red Scare. He was on Richard Nixon's list of enemies because Richard Nixon was constantly worried about him. They were constantly thinking he was going to run for governor of California or something. They tried to get him to run as the Democratic opponent for Reagan for governor, and he wouldn't do it. But then his son tried to run later for Senate or something.
So it's kind of Gregory Peck's fault that Reagan is a
Well, sure. President Gregory Peck would have been an interesting contrast to President Reagan if they had two actors back to back.
Yeah.
I think Gregory Peck, of all the, like, I obviously don't think actors should ever get into politics, really. But, like, as they go, Gregory Peck would have been a very, you know, dignified political leader.
Yeah, he would certainly look the part. Anyway.
Yeah. But...
Is he of Irish descent? Why would he be? Oh.
The Dingle Film Festival used to have, like, a Gregory Peck Award, and then it moved somewhere else.
Peck's not a very Irish name.
Yeah, it's not.
Is that a stage name?
I'm going to see. No, Eldred Gregory Peck. Ayres was his mother's name. His father was of English and Irish. Oh, his grandmother on his father's side was Irish.
Okay.
But he was Irish Catholic. Catherine Ashe was his grandmother.
Okay, that sounds. Yeah.
And Thomas Ashe. He was related to Thomas Ashe, who participated in the Easter Rising.
Ah, fantastic!
Less than 3 weeks after Peck's birth in 1916, and died while being force-fed during a hunger strike in 1917. Oh man, a family of heroes right there. But yeah, I think Gregory Peck is great. He worked with Hitchcock. He's in stuff like this. He's in loads of war movies. He's in, obviously, I think To Kill a Mockingbird's like top 10 leading actor performances, like incredible stuff. And I got nothing bad to say about the guy. Audrey Hepburn wise, Katie, Audrey Hepburn's outgrown her movie star status now to be like ultimate like normie fashion girl icon. I find it interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
It's fascinating. Like, she's probably one of the most recognizable faces.
Yeah.
And the stills from Breakfast at Tiffany's that actually aren't from the film.
Yeah.
They just seem to be from some kind of shoot.
Yeah.
Have like just made their way into so many
people's
like
houses.
Yeah.
Shane, have you ever seen an Audrey Hepburn film other than this?
I don't think so.
That's mad.
I've seen her in the Galaxy Chocolate ad.
Oh, Jesus.
That's like one of the first examples of this bringing back a celeb from the dead.
Oh god,
it's mad.
Is that a digital thing?
That's
is that a lady who looks like her?
That's a CGI.
But she's also, if I'm correct, in an old ad for, is it Gap jeans?
Oh no!
And again, it's like
her
fake.
Estate, her estate must be run by some very cynical bastard, or they have a very loose legal grip on her image or something.
It's the dance scene from, is it Funny Face? That she's in all black. And so then I'll check the name of the company, but they bring out a jean inspired by Audrey.
Right.
And so the ad then is like that dance.
Right.
But then I think she's in the jeans.
Oh my god.
It's something.
Nightmare.
Yeah, she definitely has the two really weird.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Like I'm a big fan, and I probably got into her only for those reasons of like the eyebrows and how you'd buy a notebook and Audrey would be on it, or you'd buy a print for your wall and Audrey would be on it. But she, I think, was a fantastic actress and just such a wonderful personality. Like, so I don't really
like. I came to her just as a fan of the films from this era. Like, if she wasn't a fetishized by fashion-y people as she was, I'd still love her as an actress. Like, I mean,
like, in all sincerity, she was though like an unbelievable fashion icon.
Yeah,
and she goes on to have the partnership with Givenchy in many, like I think Sabrina is Givenchy as well. Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah. I guess the only negative side to it, or not even, but the side that's a bit cynical to me, is that there's certain people, and the only classic films they'll ever bother with are maybe the Marilyn Monroe stuff or the Audrey Hepburn stuff. And it's like, you're really missing out on a lot. Like, people who like they'll watch Tiffany's and maybe they'll watch Funny Face and Roman Holiday.
And they will declare themselves a huge fan, then they won't look into
like an awful lot of film from this period is just as stylish.
Yeah, there's so many actresses from the 50s and 60s with incredible style that these people could learn to admire and love as well if they were bothered. Like, so it's just a shame that people don't watch this, think, oh Jesus, what else did William Wyler do?
Yeah,
and go and check out some of the other stuff, Yeah,
like the clothes in all of these films is beautiful. The hair, the makeup, all of the women are of course stunning because they wouldn't be for leading ladies in the time. So,
but she has anyway. She's playing this like princess of whatever. Where is she going to be a princess of? Made up country? Like,
I don't think it's ever specified.
Like, and it's funny. She's got this crazy non-specific foreignness to her because she's kind of like Belgian, English, Dutch.
Yeah.
Like,
She's born in Belgium, I think,
Yeah.
and then she spends the war in the Netherlands, and then she's back over to England.
Yeah.
And then
She's
goes
what
on.
you would describe as...
She
Yeah.
is. Anya Taylor-Joy being today's
Yes, that's a
hodgepodge of
very good...
things.
Yeah, because they have this sort of like regal tone to their
Yeah.
voice.
And they're good at
That's
playing.
just...
And like Audrey Hepburn today would 100% be getting cast as like sci-fi characters because she'd seem like she's otherworldly,
Yeah, she's...
you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny that the women she competes with for roles, so like very explicitly Julie Andrews for My Fair Lady is like the most kind of normal, down-to-earth thing. Like, okay, Julie Andrews is a bit otherworldly in Mary Poppins, actually, but she certainly is very like English and proper, right?
Yes, yeah.
And not this kind of like European-y
Yeah.
kind of mystery woman the way Audrey Hepburn is. And it's funny that that's her competition early in her career, or like midway through her career, is actresses who are far easier to pin down. But she this is followed up by Sabrina, which I haven't seen maybe ever, at least since I was a child, which we just spoke about because we did William Holden on our network episode. And I figure Sabrina's probably really good, right?
Sabrina is brilliant. I don't know if Roman Holiday or Sabrina would be my favorite. They're both quite similar in that they're that beautiful, like luminous black and white.
Yeah.
And it's the same. She's sort of dowdy.
Yeah.
She goes off. She gets a makeover. She looks fantastic.
Yeah. On the subject of the black and white, I did note that this film was shot in black and white because it was way too expensive to go to Rome and shoot in color.
Right.
Which is funny because they had the option of color at this point. And I think Sabrina's probably another one that was shot on location, like in an exotic spot. And they were at this point like, yeah, we gotta... Like, I think the more exotic the locations, ironically, they were choosing to film stuff in black and white.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's ironic because you're like, damn, I'd love to see Rome in color. But, but also... The black and white in these films is stunning. I don't need them to be in color. It's just funny that you're kind of... Maybe Rome is a city that is nicer in black and white.
Yeah, I think there is something about it, like the lighting, especially when they're dancing down by the water. The fact that that's in black and white, I think is very effective.
Shane, how would you compare the Roman steps stuff and Spanish steps stuff in this to the little yellow car going down the Spanish steps in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning?
This has been on my mind the entire time.
Yeah, I was thinking...
There's about 4 minutes of this film that is like in motion.
Yeah.
And they're on like a little moped and they're flying around. And I'm like, do you know what this reminds me of? And it's like, but it is surprising how little motion there is to the whatever hour and a half of it. It really picks up pace when they're down by the water and you get into the kind of fight scene and start smashing guitars over people's heads.
They just need to be outside.
I think so. They do. They spend an awful lot of time. They're in the apartment. They're in the newspaper
in the apartment for
office.
too long. I think it doesn't offer anything.
It's a 2-hour film for and I hate being every film's too long wanker, but this film's not need to be 2 hours long.
Like you're not really establishing anything extra by spending more time in the apartment. Like you're just kind of passing time for the sake of creating panic, I guess, that she's gone missing.
Yeah. And also, they're not even in a lot of those scenes together. A lot of it is just kind of her on her own. And you're like, they're not even... this isn't even time we're spending watching these two.
And like, she's not so disassociated from the world by being a princess that she doesn't understand how an apartment functions, which I guess is maybe what they're trying to show a little bit, that they're like, she's not used to this small room. And
spoons and the tapestry.
Yeah, but it's not...
She lives in a house.
Yeah, and she's normal and she's well-adjusted and...
She's not a freak. Where does this compare to other like freaky princess characters? What other movies are there where like a princess stops being a princess? I feel like Princess Diaries.
Well, Princess Diaries,
I don't know. The other
Princess stops.
Ones that are jumping to mind are too fantastical, like your Enchanted and stuff.
Yeah,
they're based on like someone literally exiting a certain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, after Sabrina, she does this War and Peace, which I've never seen, which sounds great. And then she's in Funny Face, which is by far my favorite Audrey Hepburn.
I will strongly disagree
you're a Fred
here.
Astaire hater.
Yeah,
we won't allow that kind of shit on this podcast.
No.
We'll do Funny Face on the podcast one day, but she's so great in that. She plays this like beatnik girl who works in a bookshop, and Fred Astaire goes in trying to take photos, and she's like, "Will you get out of my way? I'm trying to do my job." And he's like,
"She's correct."
And she's like, "Oh my god, you're stunning. We're gonna take you to Paris to be a model." So she reluctantly becomes a model because she's so interesting looking. And Fred Astaire is just like trying to get her in all these cool shots and take loads of pictures of her. And then they end up going to like weird jazz clubs in Paris. And it's a great bit of casting of her as like kind of weird, cranky, literary girl, you know, which is a really fun type to put her in.
Yeah, a great example of where colour absolutely should have been used and is sensational.
Funny Face is one of the most colorful films I've ever seen. Then she's in stuff like The Nun Story and Love in the Afternoon, and then Brekkie Tiffy is 61, which I think is not that great either.
Yeah, Breakfast at Tiffany's it's hugely overrated. Again,
good costumes,
fantastic costumes.
I don't know what the Truman Capote story is like. I haven't read it, but I haven't read it
either. Have read a lot about it, which mightn't count as much, but it's definitely grittier.
Yeah,
like Audrey Hepburn is it's a much more sanitized version of the tale. And obviously, like, I saw it for the first time as a child, never picked up on the fact that she was a good time gal as such.
Yes.
And they do that really, really well.
Yeah.
She's very charming in it. And I think the ending's beautiful and I cry every time. But for some reason, it's reached this status that...
I think just because... Yeah, I wonder. It's actually because the funny thing about it, it's the one 60s film that people who don't like 60s films will watch.
Yeah.
And I think it is a very inaccessible film.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't like classic films, you're not going to enjoy Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah,
it's boring.
It's definitely out of, the big ones you've mentioned. It might be like one of her more unconventional roles and unconventional storytelling.
Yeah.
And themes and all. So it's
not
interesting.
A crowd pleaser.
No.
It's odd. Then she does Charade with Cary Grant, which is a fake Hitchcock movie, but it's a good one. It's Stanley Donen, who's a great director, does it. And this is my favorite thing about Charade. The film includes a notice stating, Universal Pictures Cop Company Incorporated, Stanley Donen Films Incorporated, all rights reserved, but they omitted the word copyright or the copyright symbol. And because of this, the film is in the public domain. Wikipedia has demonstrated the film being in the public domain quite beautifully by embedding a full version of the film in the Wikipedia page, in this section of the page for you to click on and watch. I have never in my life seen a film more widely available on like cheap €2 DVDs in newsagents as a child than Charade. You would find it everywhere. And now you will find it on Netflix, on the Criterion Channel, on HBO Max, on fucking Prime Video, on Apple TV. It is on every streaming service, and it's on YouTube. And you can.
Is it on Paramount Plus?
Is it on Gesundheit? It is available everywhere. The music, however, is copyrighted.
Does that have anything to do with Audrey Hepburn's image being essentially public domain as well?
No, because weirdly, none of the images of her are from Charade. She's a bit older in Charade. Like, she's in her mid-30s Charade. There's a shitty remake of Charade with Mark Wahlberg called The Truth About Charlie, directed by the great Jonathan Demme, but it stinks. And then she's in Paris When It Sizzles again with William Holden, which I watched as a child, and there was a bit where she imagines him as a vampire for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It scared the shit out of me, and my parents turned it off. Then in 1964, she's in another not that great but classic film, My Fair Lady. She's kind of the queen of doing the sort of like three-star classics.
That's another one that I sincerely don't enjoy. I feel I've said the word sincerely a lot in this.
Like, I think it's fine. Like, it's fine. There's a couple of good songs in it, but she doesn't fucking sing them.
No,
that's not
she
her
doesn't.
fault. They did that against her will.
Yeah.
She beat out Julie Andrews for the role, who had been killing it on Broadway in that part. And then, what do you know? They end up competing at the Oscars that year. And I think I'm right in saying that she loses to Julie Andrews.
Yes, she does. As rightly so. Yeah. She has a habit
so much better.
of being paired with older
constantly.
Men. What is up with that?
I don't know. Is that just the thing at the time, or is it that she's got a? Is it for the good reasons, or is it not good reasons? Is it for bad reasons or really bad reasons?
Or creepy
reasons? Is it because
reasons?
They think she has a certain maturity to her that will bounce well off of these older men? Or is it because they think she's small and kind
fragile
and infantile, and that it'll enhance the sort of pedo vibes between them?
Because I wonder, does that now people might disagree, but I feel she's not synonymous with being a sex symbol per se.
No,
and I wonder then is because she's put in these kind of sexless sort of pairings
with men who are far too old to be developing sexual chemistry with an actress. Like Rex Harrison looks in My Fair Lady like he is like 75 years old. Like he looked 70 all through the 60s while he was going around using anti-Irish slurs and being a bollocks. Like
is she considered kind of an icon or an image for like conservatism and like this is how
wouldn't, not quite.
No,
that.
It's just she's like the antithesis
just
to
new voguey, fashiony 60s fashiony imagery. Like, whereas Marilyn Monroe, you've got the whole like hot blonde bombshell thing, and then you've got your Katharine Hepburn, who's like very, very, the height of intelligence and autonomy, and may as well be the president. And then in the middle, you've got Audrey Hepburn, who's, you're right, is like, I'd say the most sexually charged men we're talking about in any of these movies are like William Holden.
Yeah.
And who's kind of just a permanently kind of like frisky guy. And then, I don't know, I guess your man in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the guy. Whose name I can't remember.
Well, he's either Paul or Fred in the film. She goes between the two.
The boring man. But yeah, you're right. Like Fred Astaire and Rex Harrison, these are old men. Like, she kind of leans into being old then in 76, where she does Robin and Marion with Sean Connery. Have you seen this?
Yes.
It's a weird movie.
I haven't seen it. No,
it's like old Robin Hood being cranky and old. It's very boring, but I do like it. It's her and Sean Connery just kind of hanging out in the woods, and he's like, we're so old, and he's like 45 in this film. This is from the 70s. Like, we just talked about him in the 90s in the Rock episode. He's like, oh, we're so fucking old, and she's like, oh, we're so old. You might be able to tell, folks, I haven't seen this in quite a while. Richard Harris is in it. Robert Shaw's in it. John Barry did the music. A lot going for it, but it is her last headline role in a film. She does a thing called Bloodline with Ben Gazzara, and then she does a thing called They All Laughed with Ben Gazzara, which is Peter Bogdanovich. I need to watch that because that sounds like a fun pairing. And then she's in Spielberg's Always in 1989, and her final film is working with Spielberg, and she's in that with John Goodman and Richard Dreyfuss, which is so odd that they overlapped. And that she worked with Spielberg, and then she dies about 4 years after that. So kind of a compact career, where like half the films she's in are pretty iconic. Like, there's a good proportion of these that are well-known names. But only maybe 2 or 3 that I would consider to be great. But part of that is my own cynicism. Roman Holiday is probably not one of those for me, but I won't spite anyone who loves Roman Holiday. But with regards to the locations in this, what are your faves? Yeah,
so for anyone who's embarking on their own Roman holiday, I would suggest going to Via Margutta, because that is where Gregory Peck's apartment is.
Very nice.
And it's maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes from the Spanish Steps, which is obviously thronged, and which features in the film.
Yes.
I tried to recreate the eating an ice cream picture and failed. So took refuge on Via Margutta, and it's really, really quiet. It's very tranquil. And you can go into the little courtyard where his apartment is.
Very good.
And inside a little office within the courtyard, someone just has all these cutouts of Audrey Hepburn, but it's not creepy at all. It's just quite lovely. So that's a great spot.
Very good.
Any cutouts of Gregory Peck?
No cutouts of Gregory Peck, unless he's in it just, because he's behind her on the Vespa or something. But it's definitely a shrine to Audrey and not Gregory. Not very boy party of them.
No, very girl party.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on any of these people? No.
Not particularly.
Roman Holiday.
A very plot dense film.
Yeah.
As you can probably tell from
we didn't even say what happens. He's a journalist. She's a princess. She runs away. She's in Rome, and he's like,
He kind of stumbles upon her when she's sleepy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to get an interview with her and save my job.
Yeah.
But then they're like, turn out to be friends. And he's like, I won't rat her out.
A classic sneaky journalist.
Sneaky journalist.
What would he be doing today? Who would he be writing for today?
Work for TMZ.
He'd be working for TMZ. Yeah, he would be. He'd be the guy on the motorbike in Nope.
Yeah.
Gregory Peck for TMZ.
Him and Britney Spears or something.
He'd be following around those Love Island folks this week. He'd be like, what's going on with them? We can do topical references on Boy Party, folks.
We can indeed.
Let's do the credits game. Everyone loves this. What a fun game. I'm going to read the cast list of a movie starring one of these 2 actors from bottom to top, according to Letterboxd. And Katie and Shane are going to guess what is the film. Will I give you both a year? Oh, the year will give it away.
Of course.
I'm not going to give the year. The year will give it away.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right. Mary Ellen O'Brien, Paul Frailer, Richard Wasserman, Paris Buckner, Joel Colker, Edgar Allan Poe the Fourth.
What?
Yeah, this is why I had to do it. Forrest Burton, Zully Montero, Fred Thompson, Eliana Douglas, Martin Balsam. Okay, these are people I've heard of now. Gregory Peck. We've got like 7 names left.
Oh, okay.
Robert Mitchum. Now, if you folks knew your pictures, you'd get it based on that.
Yeah.
Joe Don Baker, Juliette Lewis, Jessica Lange.
Oh, hang on. Should we pause at Jessica Lange? No, not that I'm going to be able
I
to
could give you a
contribute to this,
massive clue, and I could give you the director. I'll give you the year. 1991.
1991.
Well, no.
Continue.
Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro. The film is Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear remake. The remake of the original Cape Fear, which starred Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum. They show up in small roles in the remake.
Very good.
That was hard.
Yeah, that was a bit.
I couldn't really find an easy one, so sorry about that.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate game for me because I don't know about movies.
Yeah, I'm not a great help in this either.
Will we do the top grossing films of 1954? Or will we bother?
Do we have our other game set up?
No.
No? Damn.
Let's have a look. 1953.
54 or 53?
53. All right. You'll get some of these with clues. I'll give you clues. Only with clues. Okay.
Oh God.
Number 1, we got a Disney animated picture. There's a ride in Disneyland based on this.
Is it Dumbo?
No. This is a very heavily exploited IP. There's a lot of films based on this.
Beauty and the Beast.
No, that is from the 1990s, Shane. This is like very like middle of the road classic Disney animation. Like I can't name any songs from this. Maybe people can. It features iconic character designs more so than songs, or based on a classic novel for kids.
Snow White?
No, it's based on a book rather than a fairy tale. Like it's based on a book with an author who, written in the 19th or 20th century. Like there's flying in it.
Aladdin?
Oh, Peter Pan.
Peter Pan. Ding, ding, ding. 100 million tickets sold. Crazy. 100 million tickets sold. What the fuck? Then number 2, we've got...
that's a... Oh, wait, to the...
100 million tickets. That
to the film or to the ride?
To the film.
That's a modern day $1 billion film.
Is it? Yeah, I guess it is. Okay, then we've got a biblical epic that I mentioned.
Oh, did we say Ben-Hur?
No, not a William Wyler. This was nominated for the Best Picture Oscar. This is The Robe. Oh. And then at number 3, we've got another classic that I mentioned in that Oscar conversation. This is a good one. There's a beach in it.
Oh, From Here to Eternity.
From Here to Eternity. That's a banger. That's a boy party we can do. That's what Deborah Kerr, Sinatra, and Montgomery Clift. Maybe someone else. Maybe Burt Lancaster. Great film.
I think Burt Lancaster's in that. Yeah.
Maybe Montgomery Clift isn't. Then at number 4, we've got this is a classic horror that was remade in the 2000s with one of the worst actors of all time starring.
God.
In 3D, I think.
Is this are they one of the worst actors whose primary job is an actor, or were someone?
This is someone who decided to become an actor in the early 2000s and is one of the worst actors of all time. Probably has gotten more Razzie nominations per capita.
Okay.
And they starred in a remake of this, which is a classic scary horror, kind of see it in 3D. Not made by a great director or anything. Slop, literal slop. There's slop in this film. Sloppy things. Because things melt. It's House of Wax. At number 5.
Who's the actor?
Paris Hilton was in the remake. At number... these clues are too complex. At number 5, we've got someone in this room.
Shane.
Hey.
At number 6, we've got a Monroe picture.
Okay.
Yeah. One of her...
Gentlemen prefer blondes.
You got it. Correct. Well done. Never seen that.
Excellent.
20 million tickets sold. Who's the other woman in that? Jane Russell?
Yes.
Yeah, never seen that.
Is that boy
Audrey
party material?
If I knew more about Jane Russell, it would be.
Audrey Hepburn winning the Oscar that year kind of disproves the title of that film.
True. In that case, gentlemen preferred the dark-haired lady.
Brunette, I believe, is the word.
They should have made a sequel with Audrey Hepburn. Like what men want, At number 7, there's something called Hondo. I'm more interested in a Honda Civic, personally. At number 8 is How to Marry a Millionaire. Who's in that? That's Peter Sellers and... No. Who's in How to Marry a Millionaire? That sounds like an Audrey Hepburn movie.
No, you're thinking of How to Steal a
That's
Million.
That's Marilyn Monroe and Lauren Bacall and Betty Grable. That's a boy party. What noise did I just make?
I'm not sure. Don't make it again.
At number 9, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Jesus Christ. That's more fathoms than tickets. And then at number 10 is something called Niagara, which I'm guessing is like a scary waterfall movie or something.
Marilyn Monroe is in that
Marilyn
as well.
Monroe and Joseph Cotton.
Jesus, great year for Marilyn.
Marilyn Monroe. God, it's almost as if she was being overworked and she was going to die young.
True. It's also like this Audrey Hepburn episode has turned into a bit of a
Marilyn episode.
Marilyn Monroe.
We'll do Marilyn Monroe soon. We'll get... you can wear a wig and do the Marilyn Monroe episode.
Sure.
Yeah,
thank you for
whatever.
the invitation.
We can do blonde.
We could...
Oh, God.
It's not a boy party, I know.
It's also cursed.
Sure.
We'll get... Our podcast will be banned. They'll delete us from Spotify. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to our Roman holiday episode. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been
Audrey,
great.
Gregory, and the magical world of William Wyler.
Enjoy your Italian trip.
Enjoy your Italian trip.
Yes.
You won't quite be off in Italy by the time this episode drops, but looking forward to hearing about it when you get back. Join us next week, folks, for another fantastic episode of Boy Party. And the following week, we'll be kicking off Joker Month. So in 2 weeks, we'll be doing Tim Burton's Batman. Oh, I'm just realized we're doing a Tim Burton film and Beetlejuice is about to come out. Interesting. Visit boypartypod.com. You can follow Boy Party Pod on all the relevant social media. Katie will make herself known if she wishes online. Her picture of Gregory Peck's hands will be shared.
Yes. For a price.
Where can people find your work, Katie?
My work?
What do you want to promote? Any film companies that you're on the board of that you'd like to advertise?
One, a chew, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upcoming projects, including The Snarfer, obviously. It's been coming for a while. A lot of production issues there.
Yeah.
And of course, Talk to Your Mates is coming out this November, and controversially, they're putting Kyoan in for supporting actor. It's not quite.
Is he more of a lead?
He's more of a lead, but they don't think he's got the Anyway, we're gonna deal with their agents.
Exciting times ahead.
Excuseme.com for all of those. Wait, I didn't let that expire. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll be back next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.